Hey everyone, Danielle Spencer, the beloved actress, best known for her role as the smart-mouthed, quick-witted Dee Thomas on the classic 1970s sitcom What's Happening, captured the hearts of audiences with her sass, intelligence, and natural comedic timing. But few knew the depth of pain and resilience that lay behind her infectious smile. Before her tragic death, Danielle recorded one final message. A haunting, heartfelt reflection that is now being called the most emotional statement she ever made, one that changes everything we thought we knew about her life, her struggles, and her faith. It's a message that peels back decades of silence, exposing the sacrifices and hidden wounds of a woman who fought fiercely to protect her peace in an industry that often robbed her of it. For years, Danielle Spencer was a face of nostalgia, a reminder of television's golden era when laughter came easy and families gathered around the TV to watch wholesome comedies about love, friendship, and growing up. But behind the scenes, Danielle's life was far from the simple, happy world that her on-screen character lived in. Her journey was one marked by loss, tragedy, and quiet strength. And in her final words, she revealed just how much she endured, how much she forgave, and how much she hoped her story would serve as a light for those who feel forgotten. To understand the power of Danielle's final message, we must revisit the remarkable yet turbulent path that defined her life. Born in Trenton, New Jersey in 1965, Danielle's introduction to fame came early. Her stepfather, Tim Pelt, was a producer, and her mother, who worked in the entertainment industry, nurtured her love for performance. By the time she was 11 years old, Danielle was cast as Dee Thomas on What's Happening, a show inspired by the 1975 film Cooley High. Her sharp-tongued but lovable character became an instant hit. Fans adored the way she kept her TV brother Raj in check, and her sarcastic one-liners became part of sitcom history. For many, Danielle represented the voice of truth in a show filled with humor and heart. Yet, even as America fell in love with Dee, Danielle was growing up in a world that was far more complicated than the script suggested. Fame came with pressure. She was one of the few young black actresses on prime-time television, and that came with enormous expectations. Producers and fans demanded perfection, and behind the camera she often struggled with the same insecurities that plague child stars, the fear of being forgotten, of never being more than a memory from someone's childhood. When What's Happening ended in 1979, Danielle was only 14, but she was already weary of Hollywood. The glitz and laughter had worn thin, replaced by the loneliness that comes when the cameras stop rolling. Like many former child stars, she found herself unsure of what came next. She tried to lead a normal life, focusing on school and eventually pursuing veterinary medicine, a career that reflected her deep compassion for animals. She graduated from Tuskegee University School of Veterinary Medicine, becoming a respected veterinarian in her own right, one of the few black women in her field at the time. But just as her new life began to stabilize, tragedy struck in 1977 when she was involved in a devastating car accident that left her in a coma for 3 weeks. She miraculously survived, but the physical and emotional scars stayed with her for life. Years later, complications from that same accident would resurface in heartbreaking ways. Throughout her adult life, Danielle rarely spoke publicly about her struggles. She appeared in occasional reunions and interviews, always smiling, always poised. But behind that smile was pain. Not just physical, but emotional. She faced years of back pain, depression, and isolation, especially after being diagnosed with spinal stenosis, a severe condition that would eventually lead to partial paralysis. In her final interviews, Danielle opened up about how her faith became her lifeline. She said that even when she felt abandoned by Hollywood, she never stopped believing that her story had purpose. Still, what no one knew until recently was that before her death, Danielle recorded a deeply personal message, part confession, part farewell, where she finally spoke her truth. In that final message, Danielle reportedly addressed the toll that fame took on her life and how she spent years trying to reconcile the person the world thought she was with the woman she truly became. "People remember Dee," she said softly, "but they never really knew Danielle." She talked about the isolation of being a child star, of growing up in front of millions and then disappearing into obscurity once the spotlight faded. "When the show ended," she confessed, "so did my childhood." She described feeling invisible in her later years, even as fans stopped her in grocery stores to tell her how much she meant to them. To be loved by people who only know the version of you that doesn't exist anymore. But perhaps the most heartbreaking moment came when she reflected on forgiveness, not just for others, but for herself. She admitted that for years, she blamed herself for not living up to people's expectations, for not maintaining the fame that others thought she should have had. "I had to learn that success isn't what you see on TV," she said. "It's peace, it's love, it's being okay with who you are when the applause stops." Danielle also spoke candidly about her health struggles, revealing how she had quietly battled complications from her accident and how the pain sometimes made her question her faith. "There were nights I asked God why he spared me if this was how my life was supposed to be," she said tearfully. "But then I realized maybe he kept me here to remind people that miracles don't always look like you expect them to." In one of the message's most powerful moments, she talked about how she came to terms with mortality. "I'm not afraid to go," she said. "I just hope when people think of me, they remember that I kept fighting. Not because I was strong, but because I believed there was still something left for me to give." The message was found days after her death by a close family friend who described it as both heartbreaking and healing. Hearing Danielle's voice, frail yet filled with grace, gave closure to those who loved her most. In that final recording, she made peace with the world that once adored her and then forgot her. She asked fans not to mourn her as the little girl from television, but to celebrate her as a woman who overcame, who loved, who endured. "If you're watching this," she said in her closing words, "please don't feel sorry for me. Just promise me you'll be kind to someone today. That's how I want to be remembered, not as Dee, but as Danielle, the woman who loved people even when she was in pain." Those who heard the message say it completely changed their understanding of who Danielle Spencer really was. It wasn't a goodbye steeped in sadness. It was a revelation of truth. Her final words have since spread across social media, touching millions who see in her story a reflection of their own struggles with identity, purpose, and faith. Fans now realize that her life was a testament to resilience, that she refused to be defined by tragedy, fame, or fading youth. Her death may have ended her earthly journey, but her message continues to inspire countless people to find beauty in imperfection and peace, in honesty. In the end, Danielle Spencer's legacy goes far beyond what's happening. She was a pioneer, a survivor, and ultimately, a truth-teller. Her final message was more than a farewell. It was a declaration of freedom from everything that had weighed her down. Thanks for watching.